welcome to another high-powered episode of the High Voltage Live Show. I'm your host, Willie Snyder, coming to you live from the Mile High City, Denver, Colorado, joined by my awesome co-host, Mr. King James Stalkup, over there in Big Sky Country, Texas, giving old hook 'em horns. And looks like we already have Mr. E. David Englehart up in the house, plans examiner from Central Florida area. He is saying greetings to all the code nerds like him. And he is going to be at the IAEI South Arizona chapter meeting in about a half an hour, looks like. So that's pretty awesome.
Is that down by Tucson?
Let's see. Yeah, and there is some cool stuff. That's gonna be awesome, man. Over there with Mr. Ryan Jackson, and yeah, you know, we've actually ran into that too, David, with those VAB units and a lot of AHJs saying that they have to have working clearance, and they're up in the ceiling above a grounded material. I don't see how you're ever going to comply with the working clearance unless you like built a platform above the ceiling or something. It's ridiculous, but looks like King James already has his link up in there.
Let me comment on that. You know, we've ran into different ones like that before with transformers.
Yep.
And the way, you know, I'm on the 7D committee, so I thoroughly speak to this and discussions that were had. And, you know, we never required clearance. But when you started looking at it and you were going to do those infrared scans and everything on the transformers and everything, what we required at that point is you'd go in, de-energize the circuit and everything, and then take and put up blankets and everything around there to insulate you the best you can, and then go in, make sure it's de-energized, and then after you take the cover off, then turn it back on. And then you've got all your scanning equipment there and everything, and then you would scan at that point. And that brings up another point, depending on what type of units you have and everything, is do you have to work on it while it's energized? That is the main key. And if you do, then you've heard me say this many times. And we lay it out in our 7E publication perfectly when you get
that's a really good point. Wouldn't that be condition 3 there, James? In 110.26a?
Yes, but what I'm talking about is you have to take and look at, because you could have older equipment where you don't have this access and you don't have these spacing requirements. So what ends up happening, you have to, and you go over, you'll see the language in there. It'll say additional protective measures. Well, when you look at that, when do you need additional protective measures? What are, as a good example, you go over and you look at we have 2 tables in there that go in, and it gives you all the standards for your gloves, your blankets, your sleeves, your ladders, and all this other stuff.
Because that's protecting from shock, correct?
Mm-hmm. Now, what you have to look at when you get into that type of stuff is you'll have one table is stuff that is basically required. Okay. And that's where you pick up your gloves and things like that, and your leather protectors. Then there's another table called other standards. Well, why do we have other standards? Because those are your other additional protective means. See what I'm saying? So if you don't have a clearance, you have to protect yourself from a shock, right? So, you know, take some of the old panel boards, what they used to have in front of them, 30 inches. As a good example, that was actually code at one time. Well, you got an older system sitting there where you need to protect yourself. So you're going to put a blanket up behind you and put you down an insulating mat, and this protects you from what you've heard me talk about this for, hand to hand or hand to foot contact. And that's where the current would, you know, flow through the heart. And that's where you get defibrillation and all that. So that's why we have other additional protective means to do this. we probably need to take one time, and I need to go over all that one more time. We did that probably about 3 years ago,
Yeah.
where I broke all that down and showed all those tables and stuff and gave scenarios, how you went in and you did those selection techniques. And to me, that is probably one of the most important things people get confused about when they're looking at the 70 document. Now, if you go in and you look, take Texas Instruments, for instance, I did a lot of safety training for them. One of the things they'd have their energized electrical work permit. You would have the certain requirements there. Then they would have a little box called other protection means. Well, these were the other additional items you would need in case you didn't meet certain requirements that were required in order to provide the protection for you, where you wouldn't have that hand-to-hand or hand-to-foot shock protection. So that's why we would have the blankets and mats over there and the other protective means.
One thing I thought was interesting out of DIA, I actually saw a whole bank of disconnects with viewing windows for the IR viewing windows. That was the first time I've ever seen them like actually installed and actually working. Thought that was interesting.
It brings up, I remember I was out at, oh golly, tip of my tongue is one of the Department of Energy and Defense locations.
Oh, look who it is. Daniel's coming for his title to reclaim his Willie Quiz champ title tonight.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I was over at Brookhaven, and they were asking about some equipment that they had, and the equipment itself was designed where it was switching and everything, and they said, "Do we need to have clearance on that in case people are walking by and everything?" And I said, "No." I said, because the equipment was designed to do that, and if the equipment's designed to do that, you don't need the clearances. And they were like, "Oh, okay." And they actually wrote that in their safety manual that way. They said, if the equipment's designed, we don't need these clearances, because they thought, oh, I need to have these clearances, but they would never go inside that equipment and work on it while it was energized. So that was another good reason that they didn't have to have the clearances and everything. And see, that's why I argue with Jeremy, all these other guys over this, is because when you go look at 110.26, it's where it talks about examination, troubleshooting, maintenance, things like that. And that's where you're going to be getting in there while it's energized to check it. And if that is the case, you need that clearance. We were at UTA, BPI, Building Professional Institute. We have all the inspectors come in, and I did a 70 class. And they wanted me to do another one next year so other inspectors could come in and listen to it. But I told them, I said, if they're out there working on a piece of equipment, it's energized, and you go inside that boundary right there and you have an arc flash that's, say, 3 foot away, you can't get within 3 foot of that, or otherwise you got to take, it could be 2 foot, 1 foot, whatever. You have to put on PPE. And they're like, "No, I don't. I'm just inspector." I said, no. And that's one thing that I tell everybody about the 70 document, and pay real close attention to what I'm going to tell you. When you go in and you look at that, do we ever mention electricians, engineers, inspectors? No, we don't recognize any of those different disciplines. And the reason is because anybody that goes in there has to be suited up.
Yeah, and some of it is so crazy. So on one of the Paul Abernathy episodes, he had this Inspector Preston on there. He's a home inspector in, I want to say, upstate New York. And he was talking about how he'll go and just poke his head in there, energize, and scrape the coating off the wires so you could see that it's copper while it's energized. And I'm like, that is, to me, I'm like, dude, I wouldn't be doing that. That's crazy. I mean...
Did Paul say that was okay?
He didn't say it wasn't okay, but
yeah, you can't do that.
He was saying the Inspector Preston was like, "Oh, I had all these guys dogpiling on me about that," and I'm all, they should, because that's dangerous as hell.
Let me explain. We used to say when we first were doing the 70 document. And you can go back and check all this. And this is why it's good to have come on this podcast, because you have somebody that was there when it all took place. And we used to say live parts, but now we don't say it. You know what we say now? And this is all the way through there. You'll hear this over and over. Energize electrical, energize conductors and circuit parts.
Okay.
That means anything. So therefore, the conductors, everything, if they're energized, you have exposure to it. Therefore, you need to know what the cal rating and everything is. You got to know what the arc distance is. Plus, you got to protect yourself from shock and all that. And the thing about that is, OSHA require. See, this is what's interesting. When you go and look at an OSHA document, and you're going over looking at 1910, 331 through 335. When you go pick that up, what does it deal with basically? Shock.
Yeah.
But they still enforce the PPE requirements, and it's based on the PPE. It's not so much what they're telling you what to do in there and what the requirements are. They take and use as a remedial standard. You go back in their annex, they refer you over to where? 70E.
And it's especially important because like a lot of guys are thinking just because, oh, that's in the past, that's old, we don't have any new. We just had, I think it was 2-3 days ago, we had electrocution death over at Broncos training camp. And so, and it's sad. I mean, I feel really sad for the guy. And, the whole thing that we have people getting electrocuted and dying from electricity flowing through their body in 2026. It's just horrible. So,
you got to be careful around that stuff. Back when I was doing electrical work, and it's just a fact, you were considered a wuss if you didn't work at Energize. And that was probably all the way up to about, I'd say, late 90s. And then we were getting into all the other stuff, but and I'll say this: if you go and you actually look at the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the BLS, you can see the decline since 70E started recognizing all this stuff, dealing with these arc flash and arc blast and stuff, and you have a lot of facilities applying 70E. You're starting to see less deaths happen now.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is too, that's one of the things that I try to preach as much as possible is that there's no reason that you need to be troubleshooting stuff energized. If you know how to read your meter, you should be able to figure out the problem with your meter with it de-energized. There's no reason it needs to be energized for you to troubleshoot that, because I guess supposedly he was troubleshooting some 277 lights, and it came and found him unresponsive, and he was dead. So, to me, that's horrible. I do not like hearing about electricians dying. And the thing is, to me, that's education. That was a lack of education, because if his foreman could have taught him how to, troubleshoot that same lighting circuit with the de-energized, then he's going to be a way better electrician in the future, and it cost him his life. So to me, that's why I value my apprentices getting a good quality education.
You've heard me tell this story before. I mean, yours truly, King James, wouldn't be here today. I was lucky that I was alive. I was working on 277 volt lighting. We had that HID fixture up there. I got up on the boom, took it down. I'd gone over to the panel board, turned it off, and locked the panel, and went and put the stem on it and everything. Got up there, tied off, and went to twist it. And what happened was the supervisor went and got a key from somebody, turned the circuit back on, and that damn current went right through here, my index finger and my thumb. And the only thing that saved my life is my weight pulled me off of it, because I was reaching up, and I literally passed out right there in the bucket, and they had the controls down there, got me down, took me over first aid and were checking me, you know, and everything. And finally I come to, I was like, what the hell happened? And they told me what happened. The first thing I said is, uh, uh, where is the guy? I'm going to whip his rear end, boy. I was upset. And they fired him on the spot because he went and turned the circuit on without uh, checking, because there was some lights that were out because they were daisy chained down some rows. They couldn't see in this back row real good. And boy, I'll tell you, I know exactly what you're saying when you're talking about that 277, because I've been hit. And you know what's interesting is today, right here and right there on my thumb, right there, I've got callus marks right there where that current went in and out my finger. I'll tell everybody a quick funny one. Y'all find this funny. You can go back and check in earlier codes. But when my grandfather was doing work, they didn't have meters and all that. And they used to say, when you're checking a circuit, take your forefinger, lick it, and pop the circuit like that. And then this is the best part. It said, once you get to the point where it calluses over, you don't feel the current in your finger anymore. It said, lick your thumb and hit it. I was like, even back then, they knew what that current do to you and get your finger like that. My grandfather, his finger was completely calloused, and portion of his thumb was too, from all them years of checking the circuit. That's a true story. And it was in the code book. It told you how to do it that way.
I think there was like old timers when I started the trade that were like standing on a board. They would stand on a board and do that.
Mm-hmm.
Something. It was weird. I was like, what? You know, because I guess with the board you weren't grounded. But I don't know. It didn't seem like it worked from what I saw, but they were getting hit all the time. But you know, it was crazy, you know, growing up through what some of the old timers done. You know, when I look at it now, you know, I've been working on a little bit of electrical, a little bit of fire alarm, pretty much just a lot of everything. But I'm already on overtime. I'm not even to hit the Friday yet. But to me, it honestly teaches me how to like safely work on fire alarm without rolling trucks, without, you know, you have to go through those procedures, you know. The same thing with electrical, same thing with fire alarm. I have to call the you know, monitoring company. I have to call all the fire alarm people. I have to let them know, hey, I'm gonna be working on the system. You're gonna be seeing some stuff going on. I gotta have somebody at the panel acknowledging those troubles when they come in, because you don't want our corporate office have fire alarm panels just sitting there beeping for 12 hours straight, you know? Yep. You have to acknowledge those, get them to shut off, and, you know, you can't, those conductors, when you're pulling them out of the pipe, they absolutely cannot go to ground, and they cannot touch each other. That's the two things you cannot do. It's the same thing with fire alarm, same thing with electrical. I mean, obviously we're not, you know, demoing electrical live. We don't have to demo electrical live, but we have to demo fire alarm live. We don't have a choice. We can't go unhook that circuit and de-energize it, and we have to treat everything like it's live. You know, somebody could sit there and tell you, oh man, don't worry about that fire alarm circuit. It's, you know, it's not live, or it's not monitored, or whatever. You can't take anybody's advice, or you can't take anybody's assumption of what it is. You have to verify that 100% yourself. And, you know, who knows? Maybe this guy thought it was de-energized. You know, maybe, you know, I've seen before. There was one time we were getting ready to do, we were going to demo out some exit signs, and the room was off. And it was back in the days when we had shared neutrals. And I went and put an amp clamp on that neutral, and there was 4 amps on that neutral. Yeah. So, you know, luckily I told him, and
rolling trucks, yeah.
Oh yeah, dude, Daniel knows all about it. Like when I was at me and Daniel, we worked at the same company together, and they probably rolled trucks probably 8 times out there. And it was so stupid. It was like, I'd tell him, like, do not cut fire alarm until you come get me. And then next thing you know, I thought it was dead. You know, we're demo guys. We think it's dead. It's like, dude, you're in a hospital. Everything's live. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, they constantly, and the only thing that was not too bad about it is that in a hospital, it doesn't really bother them too much because they all shelter in place. Nobody
Yeah.
really evacuates or anything in a hospital. They just tell them shelter in place, shelter in place. We'll let you know if you need to evacuate. And usually it was a false alarm. So that was the good part is like doctors and surgeons and nurses. The one thing that blew me away that I thought was really cool was we have these special horn strobes for like the operating areas, and they have just like a real gentle boom 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 boom, you know, a real gentle tone to them. And I thought they were really cool. We had to actually decide what tone to use. We had to go, there was a selection from the hospital. The hospital had to decide it because if these doctors are in surgery and something makes them jump, you know, then, you know, that could be bad. So they actually had this list of different tones that you could use for like the operating areas. And it was pretty interesting. I mean, I learned a lot about that, and I could understand. I would, if I was a surgeon, I wouldn't want something just startling me while I'm in the middle of a surgery or operation or something. So it's pretty interesting. But should we roll the meme?
Sounds like a plan to me. Here we go.
Now that was a good idea. I've actually done that before, but I wasn't able to like leave a note. The one that happened to me was I was mounting some anchors for something, and there was a vent pipe in there, and I hit that vent pipe dead center, and like put the anchor right in there. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, you know, I probably could leave it, nobody'd ever know, but I knew I hit something, and I knew, and so I ended up having to cut the wall open, and the plumbers had to repair it. But it would have been nice if I could have just left a note, just said, "Hey, I put an anchor right dead center of your thing. Here's the freaking $10. Just like put the $10 in with the easy anchor or something."
Have a beer on me, brother. Sorry. That is actually a good idea. I actually like that.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I don't think I'd be too mad, you know, if I was in there, you know, like, I mean, so, the, what do we have?
What is the myth of the week, Willie?
Right now, Mike.
It's time for Myth of the Week.
All right, so every once in a while, I do a myth of the week, and I don't talk to King James about it. I just do it. This is one of those ones. But it was funny. I saw this switch at a school. It's like top at 56 inches, and I'm like, maybe they put it up that high because they didn't want the kids messing with it. I don't know. But it was interesting because it brings up a lot of stuff. We, as electricians, we argue about this so much, and it's almost always when we're doing like ground up buildings and we're getting ready to rough in devices, and it's like, what should we set the switches at? To me, I'm always 46 center, 48 top. That's always where I'm at, and I think it makes sense because I didn't even think about some of the comments, which is so amazing. Like they're saying that if you put it 46 to center, then the top of your first sheet of drywall is going to be right at the top of your switch. So it's only one cut. If you put it 48 center, you'll have a cut in one part of the drywall and a cut in the other part of the drywall. So I didn't really think about that. That's kind of a good thing. This kind of comes off of Annex J is what is driving this from the electrical code standpoint, which references the ADA, which is the American Disabilities Act. And there's a lot of facilities out there. Now, this isn't really driven by a code standpoint. I've ran into this so many times. Where you'll run into problems with this is when your company's trying to get paid. And all of a sudden, they start going around and finding all these violations from the ADA that's not ADA compliant. To me, honestly, I've never really ran into any big time issues as far as like I've never had an inspector say, oh, that switch is way too high. I don't think they care if there's no code reference that actually tells you this is how high your switches need to be or not higher. Now, Annex J is a form of annex, and I thought it was interesting because they actually deleted Annex J has been removed in 2026, and so I don't know if I don't know if there was some kind of something that they said this doesn't need to be in the electrical code anymore. I'm not sure what. I thought it was really good to have that in there. There's certain situations. One of the ones I'll mention to you, James, we ran into this before, is we were in some kind of I think it was some kind of a clinic, and I had to surface mount a pull station. And this is pretty much old news. I don't know that we really even do pull stations anymore, but I would say this was probably in like the mid 2000s. Like I'd say probably like 2006, 2007, somewhere in there. And what we did was we put a pull station, we had to surface mount it, and we surface mounted that pull station right next to a door. That's where they go, and it had to surface mount. Well, what I didn't realize is that you can't have objects protruding more than 4 inches. So what do we have? We have a almost 3-inch deep box with a 1/2-inch mud ring, and then we have a pull station on there. So that whole assembly was protruding in that corridor more than 4 inches, and I got called on it. And that's a life safety device. You can't have a life safety device protruding into that ADA, possibly wheelchair catching on it, their jackets catching on it, all kinds of stuff catching on it. And to me, that was a big one. That's what made this really relevant for me, is that they're quoting that ADA, that device was protruding more than 4 inches from that surface. So that one was enforceable through fire alarm. This one I don't think would be really enforceable through the electrical code, but it's interesting why they removed Annex J, because when we went in there to figure out if that pull station was a code violation, he was referencing Annex J, and he was correct. I could not do that. And what was funny was I think we ended up getting it down to like 2.5 inches. We just used a shallower box, and we didn't use a mud ring, and we did it a lot different. But I'm just this dumb kid, just barely probably got my journeyman's license, and I'm never even did fire alarm, and I'm just putting it in there how I think it'll work. And it's, to me, gonna probably have the potential to cause some problems to people in a wheelchair if they're coming around that corner not noticing it. I've had it happen to me before where I've come around the corner, not really noticed, been like too close to the wall and snagged on some devices, So that kind of stuff. And I'm not even, this ADA type of individual. If you're in a wheelchair, that's going to even be more frustrating, especially if you have to back up, get your clothing caught, whatever you have to do. So it's pretty interesting. And I didn't know exactly if you, like, kind of how you would react to this. But I thought it was really fun to kind of just see this, where everyone's like, oh, when are you ever going to see a switch that's at 56 inches? Well, right here, So I mean, to me, is that just a massively blatant code violation, or is that just something that a short teacher is just gonna have to deal with? You know,
Well,
I mean,
first of all, you honestly think I wouldn't have a reaction to this?
I'm not gonna put it past you. You know,
Ah,
I just didn't know which angle you're gonna take as far as coming from the code standpoint, being the HJ angle. I guess is what I would think.
well, I went and I looked at this uh, and looked at the ADA requirements when you're dealing in public schools, and uh, you do have to comply with the ADA, and this includes high clearance and operation. So, in order for it to be compliant, these toggle switches are going to be mounted between 15 and 48 inches above the floor. Of course, they have to be operable with one hand without tight grasping, and require 5 pounds or less to operate. All right, 5 pounds of force. Now, when I was looking at this, uh, I was like, well, that's pretty interesting. And I understood the mounting height and the operation of it with the 5 pounds of force. But also, you have to have clear floor space. And
Sure.
it tells you have to have unobstructed floor space of at least 30 inches by 48 inches.
Wow.
And that's to allow for forward or parallel wheelchair approach. That's something a lot of people probably didn't realize. And as I was looking at all this, I was like, it'd probably be a good idea to look at what are all the requirements, because it's one thing that we just look at the switch. We don't even think about the clearances that have to be around it.
True.
So,
So like, let's just say that you're in an AHJ situation, and this would this be referred to the building inspector?
yeah, I would assume that probably this would be more of a building code thing, um, and them tying it in with ADA. And I'm sure they're very aware of all the things that they'd have come out, that they probably have an inspector that looks at all that. So just like, having a ramp outside that you can wheel up and all of that. So I'm sure, and there's requirements on that, being a certain width and all of that. So uh, as I was sort of looking at this, where you're going to review this, where you get in, uh, uh, you have to take into consideration also the difference between a toggle and a rocker switch.
Right.
Okay, because sometimes it can require a little bit more finger force. And the reason that this is important, as I was reading about this, is you're going to have students that are disabled, that are limited with their motor skills.
True.
So that is something that they're going to look at, and they want to have it set where it requires, where you have less finger power to do it.
Sure.
And it can easily be operated with an elbow, closed fist, or the side of your hand. So in order to ensure all of this, you're going to review Chapter 3 of the 2010 ADA standards for accessible design. Okay.
Gotcha.
So,
And is that something that, like, say my state would have to adopt, or is that just automatically the go-to?
I think it's automatic go-to, because I think it's a
Right.
federal thing, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
So I'm not 100% positive on that.
So like,
But-
if you were like the HJ in this situation, like, and I was doing, say I just had you come out for like a rough wall or something, would you like make recommendation? How would you handle that? Would you just make recommendation to the building department, possibly a look at it, so that you didn't have this
I
all
would
get
just call
drywall?
If I was working in a school, I would, before I mounted, I would call down and talk to the HJ just to make sure what the requirements are. Because when you look at that and it talks about a review, chapter 3, see, it says the operable parts guide provided by the U.S. Access Board. So
Right.
that tells me it must, based on that, it must be a federal requirement by the ADA.
Well,
So
wouldn't the American Disability Act be like a federal
I would think
mandated?
so. Uh, I'm gonna say yes, but I don't want to say 100% because I did not research that part. I,
Gotcha.
I was just researching requirements about what's required by the ADA, and this is what I came up with.
Nice. Well, and I guess I wanted to, I like a lot of times what I do with the myths is I try to see like where they came from and how they got there and why people why do we argue this? I mean, to me, I don't think it's that hard of a deal to just go 46 center on everything, call it a day. And we've had times before where the fire alarm company was instructed to go 46 center and the electrician's like, no, I'm going 48 center. So now you have all your devices 2 inches different everywhere.
Yeah.
And I
Eh,
just think it looks horrible. It just triggers my electrical OCD. I always tell my apprentices they always find some way every day to trigger my electrical OCD, and that's one of them. When you have
Well,
all these
see,
devices different heights.
I look at 15 to 48 inches here. They may look at this and they say we want them at 36 inches. It may be something that they, a jurisdiction has already taken this into consideration. They just mount everything at 3 foot. They may say
Yeah.
mount it at 42 inches, you know, uh, and some may say 4 foot. I would just check with AHJ and see what they want to do. But
Yeah,
this,
and if you have a device, this is one of the arguments of some of the comments said they go 48 center. I think even 48 center, you're not going to have the operable point of the switch above 48 inches.
yeah, and
So,
that's why I wanted to put this together here because these are the requirements. But the main one behind this, because most of them will do 46 inches. What most I've always done that, but uh,
okay.
this takes care of it. But the one that was very interesting to me was the clear floor space. I did not even think about that.
Yeah, I don't know that that's really super easy to comply with.
Well,
Like to me, I don't know. I mean, we ran into that before where you have like these ADA restrooms and I don't know that they're even that big of a clear floor space with the toilet in there and everything.
I know it.
So,
When I was reading it, I was like, wow. And I was like, that's
yeah.
what it says. That's what I'm going to put in here for everybody to look at.
Well, and too bad they don't have like public input segment for the ADA compliance. Where we could go in there and put some public inputs in, and maybe get some of this revised and be like, put an exception in, be like, must be this clear floor space unless not, you know, not able or not,
I'm
not
sure they,
doable.
I'm sure that the AHJ will look at that. But I just
Yeah,
thought it was interesting to go ahead and put this together, stuff that I found,
yeah.
so everybody could look at it and give some additional information they're not used to seeing.
Yeah, and I really appreciate like all the comments that I had in the electrical code discussion for awesome electricians. It was really cool. A lot of cool comments. We had Miss Christine Porter comment on there, which was really good. She's code making panel one. I possibly others, maybe code making panel six, but it was pretty cool to have like people jump in there, comment, and then just a lot of really good code experts that are coming in and talking about this and kind of get it on the table because I don't like arguing on the job site. I just like saying, hey, we're doing this, and that's what we're doing, and you can't argue about it. And you always have that one guy that's like just starts putting him at 48 to center, and then I'm like, okay, I guess we're going 48 center. As long as they're all the same, that's all I care about. So that was really cool. You opened up some things. I don't know what happened to you. You're dark.
I don't know. Let me see.
Did Pops turn off the lights on you again?
Let's see what it says here. Oh no, let me log off. I'll be right back on. Oh
Okay.
no, I can't.
Sounds
I
good.
can't log off. Oh no, you should still be on. Yeah, I'll be right back.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so I'm still here, so it must not be that bad. But let's see if he comes back, because what happened one time was his dad was just leaving the room and he shut the light off and it went dark like that. So let's see if he's back.
Here we go.
And he's back. All
I
right.
don't know
Cool.
what the hell happened there.
Yeah, it's weird.
dark for
Sometimes
some reason.
it like stops camera. I thought your pops freak would shut the light off on you again and you didn't notice, but
It wouldn't surprise
never
me.
know.
Move
So
it.
funny.
I gotta load everything back up now. Like, what the hell?
Yeah. But no, that was really well put together, and I have a bunch of first year apprentices that's been checking out the show, and it's really cool because they come up and ask me questions at work, and I just explain it to them and just tell them, King James is the best, baby. If you don't think so, show us something better. And well,
Jeremy, I was telling him that just today. I said, hey, brother, all you had to do is post something up to compare to. You just can't sit
Yeah.
there and just be talking crap about somebody and not at least try to back it up. Like, damn.
well, he always breaks out the whole refrigerator argument, and what's so stupid is that there's a lot of refrigerator manufacturers that say do not install on a Class A device. It's really stupid because there's LED drivers that are not compatible. There are VFDs in them that are not compatible. There's a lot of things that aren't compatible, and it puts the AHJ in a tough spot. I was watching it firsthand. There was a lot of things in the kitchen that didn't work with AFCI and GFCI. Do they call them combination, or what they call them multi? I don't know what they call them, where you have the GFCI and AFCI together.
Yeah.
They call them the dual function. So
Dual function.
the dual function, they had big problems with compatibility. They did not work on a lot of stuff.
It was funny because my brother, he was doing one real nice house. And they had 2 refrigerators in there. I mean, big ones. And I guess they did a lot of parties and stuff like that where they put all stuff in. And they were tripping left and right and everything. And so Frank asked him to come out there and meet the inspector. And he goes, code says it has to be GFCI. I said, I'll tell you what. I said, just leave it on GFCI, Frank. I said, just leave. And then when the homeowner keeps calling because it's tripping, you tell them to call down the city because he told you that it had to be on GFCI, and you told him that the manufacturer tells you not to put it on there and let him deal with the homeowner, not you. And he goes, oh, wait a minute. He goes, that's not my responsibility. And I said, well, whose responsibility is it then? I said, you can't be telling somebody to do something and then not want to accept the facts behind it.
So
And
what I'm
tripping.
referencing, David, is the LEDs that are inside the refrigerator. And we've seen drivers, this is crazy. We've seen drivers that operate at 4 to 6 milliamp
That's right.
trip a 4 to 6 milliamp device. So it's weird. There's some kind of a compatibility thing. and I ran into it. There's actually, this is so weird. We were doing lighting at a building, and they had compatibility issues between different LED drivers. You couldn't put certain LED drivers on the same circuit as other LED drivers. You smoke one of them. Like, it was weird. And so, like, basically, that's why they had the circuits designed the way they did, so that you had all the same milliamp drivers on one circuit and different milliamp drivers on another circuit. And it was weird. Like, we actually cooked a couple fixtures because they were incompatible with each other. So to me, it's weird. And they, what they do is they put a disclaimer in the lighting control, and it says some drivers not compatible in this fixture package. You know.
Well,
And so you have to recognize that, because they have different milliamp outputs, and they don't like to work to be on the same switch leg.
well, what you get into here, let me explain. When you're dealing with these LED drivers, what you get is you'll get nuisance treatment and tripping. And what is it from? You have current leakage, and you also have electrical noise. That's why the driver is having a problem when it's dealing with the GFCI protection. And when you actually look at it, what it really is, it's like a capacitive leakage. That's what it really is.
Sure.
And it's harmless amounts of leakage current. And like I said, it's typically between 2 to 5 milliamps that it's putting out. But what the main problem is with it is you get EMI, which is basically you get an electromagnetic interference. That's what it really comes down to. And when that happens, you get that additional leakage current there, and that is what is causing that GFCI to trip. And plus, think about, you also, not only you get that leakage current, but you get an inrush current too. You have to think about that, because there's a little inrush current that pops in there too. But that inrush current combined with that, that to me is where you're really having the problem. And think of this also. You look at the appliance load itself. That's an inductive type load. Okay. So when you have that internal LED and it turns on simultaneously with that during the compressor cycle, then not only that, you're getting the sum of the compressor's inductive kickback and also the LED's electrical noise. So there's a combination that's in there, and that driver is differentiating between the two.
Yeah, and that is, you know, that is an interesting thing, David, because, you know, those manufacturer instructions say do not put it on GFCI, but, you know, that is not a refrigerator receptacle. That's a kitchen receptacle, and it says all kitchen receptacles require GFCI. So that manufacturer may not remove that requirement for GFCI. What we ran into is that there's this slippery slope that the code making panels have put themselves on, where they fail to provide technical merit. And a lot of these inspectors are getting smart and realizing that they can make a judgment call and say, hey, refrigerator accidents in residential dwellings is one of the lowest injuries out there. And they can make that judgment call and say, you know what, I'm not going to require GFCI protection. It's a dedicated appliance. It's, you know, not going to get moved once you plug it in. You know, they can make that judgment call. And that's what I think that code making panel 2 was really scared of. I think they were really mad at us because we highlighted it kind of as like, hey, the AHJ doesn't have to enforce this part of the code if they don't see there's a safety concern. And that's a lot of what Tommy D was saying. Like, hey, we put these things in the code. Nobody will buy them because they cost more, and then the states don't adopt. And
But
that's what's happening a lot more now. And I don't think they like it.
bring up another point, and I've seen this quite a bit. Some of those real nice refrigerators, hell, they're $10,000-$20,000. And I've actually seen where somebody will sell a house and they'll tell them the refrigerator doesn't come with it, and they'll take that damn refrigerator to the new house, and now you're putting an older refrigerator in there. That's another problem. And if that is the case, well, that old refrigerator isn't set up for that GFCI protection. I mean, there's things, and you look at some of that. I mean, you take them refrigerators. I mean, a lot of people take their refrigerators with them now, and there's a reason they do it, because those things are, man, especially if it's a Gen Air, Viking, or something like that. I mean, those refrigerators, they're putting in there, hell, them things $15,000-$20,000.
So I know that we ran into ones. They were kind of like luxury apartments, and they were really nice refrigerators. And they told it actually said in their manufacturer instructions, do not put it on GFCI.
Yeah.
And so we tried to go through the dual function, and it wouldn't work. We tried to just go with the standard GFCI. It wouldn't work. And we went to the AHJ and we're like, well, how do you want us to solve this? Because we have 127 units in here, and all the refrigerators are bought, and they're rolling them in. They're on dollies coming up the elevator right now. How do we solve this? And he's like, well, I don't really have a choice. We got to sign it off. And he's like, put it on a standard thermal mag. And, and a lot of the inspectors are like, you know what? I made the call, and I'll put my reputation on it, because there's not a high accident, there's not technical merit behind that. If there was a lot of like injuries and stuff happening, then I don't think there'd be a single inspector in the U.S. that would sign off on it without Class A protection. So,
well, think of this. I remember we went out and we did some checking on this one time, and I'll tell you what we found out is, when was the GFCI tripping? That was the main thing we were trying to figure out. Why was it tripping? And do you know when it was mainly tripping? It had the nuisance tripping. Is when they
probably when it was shutting off.
No, when they were opening and closing the door, and when it was doing it is when they were opening and closing the door when the compressor was cycling. That's when it was tripping.
Well, and then you'll have that combination of that LED load, that's turning on at the same time, and then it sees that spike of inrush.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a combination of the two. And I remember looking up on some research paper when they were talking about this, and I was like, that's exactly what we saw when we were out in the field looking at. Of course, I never go out in the field, according to Jeremy, but but that gives you a really good idea. Well, man,
he says a lot of
time. You ain't gonna get no topic out of me tonight. We're already at an hour.
Oh wow! All right. Well, Weedman didn't show up for your class anyway. He's no call, no show for your class. So.
But the thing is, this is actually a good myth of the week, and translating over into some other stuff we're talking about. But a lot of people that I've known, electricians, they never ever take the ADA into consideration. They don't even think about it. And that's one reason when you showed this myth, I was like, that's a really good myth, because electricians don't think about that stuff. And this is something they actually have to consider when you're going into certain areas, places of assembly like that. And that's why I was like, I'm gonna go research this information and what's exactly required out of this, because there are some rules and things that are in place. And when I really got to looking at it and I started seeing the clearances, I was like, damn, I didn't even think of that. I was like, this is actually a hell of a myth right here.
It just goes to show you how I was trying to kind of think outside the National Electric Code. And the whole thing is, it's like kind of what we went into when you get into OSHA versus the National Electric Code. Who's going to win that fight? I guarantee it's OSHA. Who's gonna win the fight, ADA or the National Electric Code? I guarantee it's gonna be ADA. So that's the kind of stuff that I kind of wanted to show, because I think a lot of these NFPA 70 guys have been kind of, their brains kind of got warped. These guys like Weedman, like, if you don't believe like we believe, then you need to get out of the room, And and they want us to get out of the room because, we're not the loudest voice, but we're a pretty loud voice, and they don't like that. They don't like having that extra noise in their arguments, and to me, I like it. I enjoy it.
What in my opinion, what it comes down to is they don't like dissension. That's what it really comes down to. And this is just me being coming on the groups and things like that, because I was never really on them before and doing all that stuff. And I've sort of learned that you've got certain guys out there, they push a narrative, and I've noticed if you disagree with that narrative, that person is attacked. And, I was attacked, but I've seen other people that have come on and agree what we're saying, and they attack them and start calling them names. And
well, you saw it firsthand, because I wasn't initially attacked right away until me and you like kind of joined forces, and then they started attacking me. But it was like I was already kind of on the outside, because I was already like not agreeing with them on other things. And so they'd already kicked me out of the ECD boy group, and you're still in there. And then you're like, man, you guys are talking real bad about Bill. What'd he do? And it's just exactly what you said. I was dissenting from what they wanted me to do and how they wanted me to say and what they want. And I'm not like that. Just kind of like what we said. Like, we're like the Donald Trump of the electrical world. It's like, we're gonna do we're gonna do what we feel's right, and we don't care. To me, make fun of me. I don't care. It doesn't hurt me. We man, oh man, da da da. You're a chomo. You're a wife beater. All this stuff. I was like, I don't care. I was like, you could say all the lies you want about me. I don't care. I know I'm a good person, and I know you're a good person, and me and you, we grew up kind of the same way. We grew up in backwoods America. And we're true to ourselves.
Hey, I grew up in the armpit of the country.
There you go.
That's what Jeremy told us.
I mean, yeah, like that's the whole thing, is guys like that are just bitter, and they just like live in their little elitist world where they make $200,000 to go to an office every day and like learn the electrical world based on what their first year apprentices tell them. And to me, I think it's a little different. To me, honestly, I try to make sure everyone learns every day, including myself. I'm learning new things every day, and just new tricks, new things to do, new things to deal with. Like, it was funny because we had today, there was like this first year, he was having problems because he had these two sleeves. They were only about maybe like 12 to 14 inches long. And he's running fire alarm cable through them, and he wanted to figure out how to strap them, and they're like 2 inches off the wall. And I was like, oh, I'll figure out a way how to strap them, and I figured it out. And the foreman that I'm working with, we're both equal. Like, he's a foreman, I'm a foreman. But he's like, why do you need to strap them? And I'm like, dude, I was like, you're putting fire alarm wire in there. It's going to have a ceiling tile in there. You want that strap. You don't want those nipples flopping around. I mean, yeah, they're nipples and they probably don't need support, but you don't want them flopping around. Your wire's going to get abrasions. You're going to get ground faults. Like, you just don't want them just flopping around, And I mean, you probably won't get ground faults or anything out of it, but you have to think of it logically. There could be guys going in there, pulling the tile out, putting the tile back in, pipes moving around, You just don't want it. It's like, why don't just strap it and, call it a day. Quit arguing about whether it's a nipple or not when it comes to that. And a lot of these guys, that's kind of me and King James's point, is they just want to argue, oh yeah, you need support. Oh no, you don't need support. Paul's sitting there saying you don't need support up to 3 feet. That's fine. I don't care. But in this case, it was easier to just strap them and not worry about, it's going to be solid. When we're installing that fire alarm system, we don't want anything to happen, like something stupid, somebody get up there and try to pull that tile to try to put in some communication wire or do something else and mess up our beautiful fire alarm system that we worked so hard on. So, it's kind of those, you have to look at like what side of the argument you're on, why you're on that side of the argument, and not just, well, the code says this and you're wrong, and to me, it's one of those things. We really appreciate having David Engelhart come in and give us input, and make sure you say hi to Ryan Jackson for me. Like I said, I'm sure he loves me still. But, it's one of those things that, like, a lot of these code guys, like, they got all mad about 62554B. And they're like, oh, Bill's screwing up the code. How am I screwing up the code? I'm saying exactly what you guys... I want it to be the same as what you say over here, you say over there. Oh, no, we can't say it over there. We can't say this over there. We can't. Yeah, that's right, because it's not correct. So, I mean, it's like, that's fine. You could sit there and say, oh, well, it doesn't apply over here in 625 now, but it still applies in 210.8F. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't have it both ways. So, that's kind of why we do the myth of the week. And it was funny, man. I was driving home. It might have even been on a podcast night. I don't remember, but I was driving home, and you're like, you wouldn't believe what public input passed. And I was like, what? And then you read it to me, and I'm like, dude, I wrote that. It was so funny. It just cracks me up, and you're just like, oh yeah, dude, your name's right here, whatever. But it was just really funny.
I had to go back and find it because they took a couple of them, and then the code making panel wrote on it.
Yeah, so they basically took it over and made it their own.
Yeah.
And even though it was my public input, they kind of acted like it was there. I think the reason they did that was because they would have just rejected it. But then they realized that if they would have like a little bit of correlation between 210.8F and 625.54 if they passed it. Yeah. And so I think that they tried to just take out the negativity of me tying into 10.8F in there. I don't think they like that too much, but
it's the way it goes.
Yeah. So
show the discrepancies.
Yeah, so it's really fun. Thanks so much, David Engelhart. Thanks so much, Daniel. Daniel knows all about rolling trucks. I think now it's like $3,000 to roll trucks to your job site. So we ain't doing that. But going to tool.
Tool, wait. Here we go.
All right.
It's time for Tool Review of the Week. Sponsored by Electricians Only Tool Review and Nipex Tradesman.
So once again, I am doing a tool review, but this time it's an actual tool that I own. This is in my tool bag, and I really love it. This is really versatile. A lot of good stuff going in there. You got your drill bits. The nice part I like about the drill bits is they go in your impact. So you could use them in your impact or your cordless drill. So that's really nice because if you're just trying to drill something out really quick and all you have is your impact, you just bam, grab those, boom, they work great. Then you have like this whole setting of your nut drivers, and you have your socket holders, and those are just so valuable. The half inch one I use for my knockout set, and I have a half inch drive, 1 inch socket, and then I use it on my Greenlee KO set that I covered probably 10 weeks ago. I don't remember when I covered it, but I've covered it at some point. If you go back through the episodes on my tour review, you can see my Greenlee. It's a hand ratchet set, but I put an impact on it, and then I put it in my impact, and I just blink, done. So that's how I do that. And then you have all these different screw tips that are just so invaluable. You have just a lot of different styles. The reason I wanted to do this is the other day I had a Torx bit that was a certain size, and it was a really long screw holding in. It was like a tamper that was holding in one of the fire alarm cages. And so I had to like take it out to get the fire alarm cage off so I could demo the device. So this really came in handy, and like I say, this is a really good set. I think Milwaukee did a really good job putting this together where it's just pretty much everything you need. If there was, for some reason, I couldn't get that tamper out, if let's just say for some reason I stripped it and I couldn't get it out, I just take one of them drill bits out and bang, bang, and knock the head off that baby, done. So that's what's cool about this set is that this is what you need to just get her done. And I've taken a lot of heat from King James that I do tour reviews that are tools I don't own. This one I own. Like I say, it's really hard when it's like a swamp cooler that just came out yesterday, and then it's like, yeah, I really want one of those, but it just came out yesterday, so I don't actually own it. But it's pretty funny that King James keeps me honest and keeps me on my toes when it comes to me actually, representing the tools that I actually own and doing a review. And this one, I can see me probably buying a new one in like the next year because of just how much I use it. And I'm just always tearing stuff up in it, tearing up the nut drivers. The nut drivers are nice. They're reversible, magnetic. They pick up the metal shavings. I mostly use my 5/16. That's the one I use the most. But, for guys like me and you that aren't out in the field, it's one of those ones I'd recommend. What does Daniel say here? Oh, yeah. Yeah, dude. Yeah, Daniel says this is one of his first tool purchases as an apprentice, and I bet you Daniel just keeps restocking it. I bet you just keep doing like what I do and just steal, not steal, but like replenish drill bits from wherever you can get them, or find different kinds of things to replenish it and, keep it up to date. But like I say, this is one of the Milwaukee tools I like. I'm not a real fan of red, but this is one of the ones I like a lot. Use it a lot. And I recommend it to all the apprentices out there. Looks like we have a ton of first years that are at my company, and it's really cool. They're coming to watch this show. And so big shout out to IEC Rocky Mountain. You got a bunch of bright individuals that are going to be joining you guys this year, coming in August. So look forward to trying to help these young men learn and come up in the trade and learn all the cool wheelie tricks and show them all how it's done. And I told all of them, what you do is you go up and you say, and you have something you're having trouble with, you go up to a journeyman, you say, hey, can you show me a trick on this? Guarantee you they'll show you a trick. Guarantee you they'll be like, oh, happy to show you a trick on this. And I bet you they know a trick way better than you were thinking. So,
oh yeah, when you've been doing it a long time, you learn, no doubt.
I used to do that. Like I probably didn't start doing that till I was probably like about a second year. But I would notice I'd start struggle busting on something.
Mm-hmm.
And I just stop and I'd be like, man, I'm struggle busting way too hard on this. I go up to one of the journeymen. Hey, man, can you show me a trick on this? And be like, on what? And then you show him. And he's like, oh, yeah, it's easy. Here's how you do it. And then guess what? Now it's easy for me.
That's
You know? And so that's the kind of stuff. Like, I remember one time I was trying to fish this wall. And I was trying fish tape. I was trying all this different stuff. I could not get nothing through there. This freaking journeyman, I was like, dude, I got all these things, all these walls to fish, and I was like, it's taking me forever. I don't even know what I'm doing. I don't even know how to do it. He's like, hey, check this out. He went over, grabbed some jack chain, and he just threw jack chain in the hole. Jack chain rolled right down, hooked the wire on, pulled it up there. I was like, dude. I was like, thanks so much for showing me that. And we were working at a school like way out east. It was like old, like it was from the 40s. And they had these lights hanging off this jack chain. It was long. It was probably like 30, 40 feet long, all this jack chain. And it was heavy. It was really thick and really heavy duty. It was like the original jack chain. I was like, that's the jack chain I'm using. And then come to find out, you drop right down cinder block. No problem. You throw that, you pop a hole with your hammer, throw that jack chain in there, drop right down, pop a hole with your hammer. Pull it out. I mean, you fish it right through. So, really cool. Awesome. Thanks for that. And where do we go in it? Willie Quiz now? Or no, man versus machine.
Man versus machine.
Oh, I
go in and show the
I got
machine who's the boss. And
I got you this week. I got you. This one's a good one.
I'll say this: the AI is getting smarter.
It is. It is.
So,
it's watching the show. I guarantee it's watching the show now that it knows it got a few wrong. Now it knows.
All right, let's
watch the
crank
show.
up.
All right.
For years, man tried to create artificial intelligence. On this segment, we find out, is AI smarter than King James?
I think I'm gonna get you.
Let's see.
This
what
one
the
is a good
question
one.
this week.
This one's rough.
Okay. Oh, knob and tube. Da, 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 da. I know it's over in like it's in point 17. I think knob and tube, isn't it over in it's the last article. Oh, no, there's two others at 396, 394, somewhere in there. But it's point 17. And if I remember right, I think I'm not 100% positive on this, but I think it's 3 inches. So that's what I'm going to go with. I'm not feeling 1,000,000% confident on this, but I'm gonna go.
To me, just like looking at the section, to me, I think even 1 inch would be totally fine. But I don't know.
Well, I think it's the tube, and if I remember right, I remember us looking at that when we had that fire, and I remember that tube going through. And it was about 3 inches. Now, I know it wasn't 6. So I'm going to go with 3.
6 would be a little far.
Yeah. So
you didn't even know what knob and tube was, so I figured I'd kind of hit you a little bit with this one. And
well, I didn't know until I went and worked on it. Trying to.
Oh, that's right. You're not out in the field. You wouldn't know these because you're not out in the field.
Yeah. I'll say that one was a Man, it was nasty in that place. Boy. All right, let me share the screen and let's see what Chat GPT has to say. All right, got it here.
I think ChatGPT is just gonna agree with you, hopefully, and be wrong.
Well, let's see. $394. Hell, it even gave the 2020 man. Okay. Well, let me go over to 394.17. I said 0.17, so let me go check. Let me
And it was 2026?
Yeah.
Okay.
Give me a second here. Let me go over. I should have logged in on this earlier. I forgot to. Okay.
Well, you did leave and come back, so you would have had to log in anyway.
Yeah. All right. So let's go chapter 3, 394. Click that. Scroll down.
Yeah, I knew it was further back in there.
Yep. It is 3 inches. Exact section.
Wow. I cannot fool you guys, man. Jeez.
So,
what do I have to do to get you guys?
Wow. Chat GPT. You're really doing better with the National Electrical Code.
I should have realized
was correct and the NEC section. King James also got it correct. Place in master log.
There you go.
Okay.
Dude, like I should have known that you would have possibly known that one based on like investigation and stuff.
Correct. That just says we're both current score for this entry. We both get check marks.
There you go. I like it.
That's funny.
I'm actually happy that ChatGPT is doing better because it was getting a lot wrong at the beginning, So
well,
I was trying to do I was trying to do some code change stuff, and I was getting it. I got it on that 6-inch one where like it said 4-inch and it was actually 6-inch on the trade size one for I think it was EMT or whatever, and they just added 6-inch in there. So
yeah,
I'll keep trying. I'm gonna keep working on it. But we're going to Willie Quiz. Time for me to do my put the guns out.
Put them out. Here we go.
Oh, that's so awesome, man. Everyone, sometimes I get pumped up, man. That's when you can tell I'm getting ready for the Willie Quiz. So we got the Willie Quiz champ getting ready to get fired up here. All right. So what country won the first FIFA World Cup in 1980? Or 1930, actually. Was it A, Argentina? Was it B, Brazil? Was it C, Italy? Was it D, Uruguay? Or is it E, Portugal? Good luck, everyone.
Now, I can tell you how I know this one is my best friend, Travis. He married a girl or lady. she's from Argentina. And
Okay.
I'm actually going to take here probably this next year, next spring, I'm going to Argentina with them. Her parents
Okay.
still live there. And we're going to go see the water, the huge waterfall that's there and everything. It's been in all the movies, it's just, it's like all over the place, just waterfalls everywhere. We're going to go see it. Anyway, in Argentina, and even the people live here, I actually went over to Dallas. I was trying to remember the name of the place we went, but they were playing, it was World Cup, and they won the last one. And we walked in there, and I tell you what, I've never seen so many blue and white striped jerseys on. I mean, boy, them Argentina people, they take that soccer, boy, I mean, serious. And anyway, we were just sitting there talking, and they were actually in the very first Final Cup, but they lost to who the United States just beat, which was Uruguay. Believe it or not, that's how I know that, because they were talking about it.
All right. Like I say, Daniel answered first, so he's gonna get the most points with the first answer of D, Uruguay. Correct answer. Uruguay was the first FIFA World Cup winner. All right, question number 2. What player is known for the famous Hand of God goal in the 1986 World Cup? Was it A, Pele? Was it B, Diego Maradona? Was it C, Johan Cruyff? Was it D, Lionel Messi? Or was it E, Michael Planini? Good luck, everyone.
Well, once again, I know this one. I can't believe I know these, but I actually have seen them wearing this jersey. That's why I know who it is, because most of them, they were wearing the Messi jersey and
Okay.
Argentina. But actually, a lot of them, you had older people there that had on some of the older jerseys. And I was like, well, who's that? And that's when they told me about the famous, they called it the hand of God. And it was Diego Maradona. And that's the only reason I know these two, is because I was learning about it.
Daniel is actually going to get double the points because he answered first and you're copying. So let's see if you guys are right. Question number. Answer is B, Diego Maradona.
I can't believe he has 2 questions. I don't even know anything just because of my best friend Travis.
Yeah,
I'm from Argentina.
Good. Like I say, it's actually on me because I didn't ask enough of what you don't know about FIFA World Cup. So
I don't really know a ton about it, but another Argentina.
Yeah.
I know this
this one's easy. All right. Which nation won the 2014 FIFA World Cup by defeating Argentina in the final? Was it A, Spain? Was it B, France? Was it C, Germany? Was it D, Netherlands? Or was it E, Brazil? Good luck, everyone. Now I will know to exclude Argentina from any soccer talk. But I didn't know it when I was making this, and
It's funny because Travis, my friend, he's learned all about it too. Neither one of us are into soccer, but she really is. I mean, she's like big time Carolina. She's really into soccer. And we've heard, sitting there, her brother Marcelo, uh, he's telling us all about it. And I remember this. And the only reason I remember this because somebody had on one of the jerseys and they all were booing him, giving thumbs down, but it was Germany. I can't believe he has 3 questions that I shouldn't even really know.
true. Yeah. I don't know. Still waiting on Daniel. So let's see. Looks like Daniel is going C. It looks like his internet was running slow. And so I'm going to have to give King James a few points back if this is correct.
It's correct.
It was Germany, so hopefully question number 4 does not have Argentina in it. Here we go. All right. So before the 2022 tournament, which country has appeared in every FIFA World Cup? Is it A, Brazil? Is it B, Germany? Is it C, Italy? Or is it D, Argentina? Good luck, everyone. All right, now we're gonna see if the Argentina thing was just to throw you off.
Well, I was thinking about this for a second because there's 2 countries there that are really huge into it. It's Brazil and Argentina. But now this is interesting because I was thinking, I'm not sure. Argentina was in the first one in 1930, so they surely played in every one of them. I'll say Argentina.
All right, so let's see what Daniel says. Daniel is going Brazil. All right, we have a coin flip. Let's see who is correct. Daniel is correct. I think for some reason Brazil didn't play in 2022. Argentina played, but Brazil didn't. So Argentina played in every single one, and Brazil didn't. So that's why that one was a little tricky. So got to King James.
It says before the 2022 tournament, which country had appeared in every FIFA World Cup? Argentina.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna have to do. Let me see. I'm gonna have to do the check on this because
did Argentina not play in one of them?
Maybe that's what it was. I'm pretty sure the correct answer is Brazil, but there could have been some reason.
I'll just ask it: has Argentina played in every FIFA World Cup?
Yeah, I think for some reason I think it's Brazil is the answer, and I'm not sure why. I think it's because maybe Argentina didn't play in 2022.
Let me see. Oh, yeah, they withdrew and did not participate in one of them. Okay. All right. Well, I guess
So-
Brazil did.
All right, Daniel, you're in the lead. Daniel's in the lead going into question number 5. Which country became the first African nation to reach the FIFA World Cup semifinal? Was it A, Cameroon? Was it B, Senegal? Was it C, Ghana? Or was it D, Morocco? Good luck, everyone.
Well, to be honest, I have no freaking clue. I think what did Daniel do? Because I'm gonna go different than him.
So Daniel went with D, Morocco.
I'll go with B, Senegal. I have no freaking clue.
Yeah, it's kind of a tricky one. Like I say, Senegal. Yeah, I mean, I was really impressed with Cameroon. Cameroon actually looked pretty good. But we will see who is correct. Daniel wins tonight. He got it right. It was D. Morocco was the first African country to reach the semifinals. Congratulations, Daniel. Just took down King James when he was gifted 3 answers that he was not supposed to know, and he still gets crushed by Daniel J. So, congratulations, Daniel.
I literally know nothing about soccer at all. It's like
Dude.
I don't know anything about it at all.
It was like the perfect storm that I picked 3 you freaking knew right off the top of your head. But
My niece played soccer, played club soccer and all that, and I go out there and watch. I didn't really pay any attention, and then she went to University of North Texas, played on the soccer team there 4 years. I went out there, saw a couple of them, and then my brother, he goes, all right, this is our senior season. We're going to every game. We traveled to Florida, Louisiana, Georgia. We were all over the place. We were playing golf, going to casinos, gambling, just having a ball. Went down
Nice.
to Florida, went deep sea fishing and all that. And so I sat there and watched play one day, and the girl breaks away and they stop play. I said, what the hell they stop play for? Yeah, I said, she could have scored. And he goes, she was offsides. I said, what? It did. As I was learning, then I started watching some hockey after that. It is same rule, being offsides. And I was like, well, that's a bunch of crap. I don't know what's wrong with them standing back there, but that's my limited knowledge on soccer. And then I watched Argentina. I forgot who they played, but we were over there, and I was watching the game, and they're being offsides. It's a real close call. They'd start booing. I don't understand any of this. It was actually boring to me.
The customary pickle shot. Cheers to you, Adam, out there. Adam is out there somewhere. We had Adam as a guest on this show for the quiz a bunch of times, and we had a customary. He would drink out of the pickle jar from time to time, so I decided to do a pickle shot. So, shot of pickle juice right here, brother. Appreciate you, Adam. Thanks so much. So that is the customary. Get over there and check out Team SOS podcast. Check out Cesar Blanco. Check out Adam Ayub and the Team SOS network. I don't think he's been streaming that much. I haven't seen him on there. He used to do a lot of Bible stuff, and I'll go check it out. And so I don't know if he got in trouble with Facebook or if he got in trouble with YouTube, or I don't know what happened, but I haven't seen too much of his streams lately. But get back over there and check out Adam, Canadian dude. It was a lot of fun pitting you versus a Canadian, and he was getting a lot of them right. And you're like, what? You can't back. You have to back in your driveway in Canada. And there was all these funny rules, and it was a lot of fun. So means a lot having people like Adam making the intro for the Willie Quiz, and so awesome. Appreciate you guys joining. So big shout out to you, Team SOS, and Adam. So go check out Team SOS. Appreciate it. We got one more. We got the Wall of Shame. You're gonna love this one, dude.
All right.
You're gonna love it.
Shame. 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 Shame.
All right. Let's see what we got this week.
And just so you guys know, oh goodness. So just so you know, I always put like who posted this on the Wall of Shame, but like there was so many comments on there like, get rid of this guy. This guy's an idiot. But like that is pretty special. Like I don't know. I've heard before guys like do this where you will like fish straight up to a hole that you know you have to patch, and then just possibly channel the drywall out to go straight across because you have to patch anyway. But like I don't know, this belongs in like an art studio or something because that's ridiculous. I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know, man. I don't even know what to say to that. Being like a service electrician, I'm sure Daniel was like, "What's wrong with that? I've done that."
Wow, that is
I'm
something.
just kidding. But yeah, it looks like, what are they, like 3-inch holes? They look like 3-inch holes.
Yeah, those.
You're like, hey, you want me to get a wire from there to there? I got you, bro.
Just tell me it's an art deco design.
Man, I don't know. I think that was like a contractor that had a guy working for him do that, is what it sounded like. So that was pretty bad, but really appreciate everyone joining us. We have so much fun doing this. I know King James, he just has a blast, and like I say, I try to put in a few questions he knows so I can just get him on question 4 and 5 and then just crush him. But you know, a lot of fun.
I even knew the first 3. I mean, there's only one reason I knew that. Otherwise, I'd have probably missed them all.
Dude, me and Daniel, we joke all the time about like, oh yeah, well, you know, me and my brother were deep sea fishing, and that's how I know this one, you know. But
I swear, every story I tell is the truth.
Yeah,
I mean, this actually happened. And,
dude, you will never hear me say I need proof like Weed Man, you know, because everything you tell me, I could tell you were there and you know, and you know, like I say,
specific. You know,
yeah,
I'm specific on everything. You know, I had a guy the other day, and we were just talking, and he asked me I've been. So I said, "Oh yeah, I've been there," and I was telling him I went and did this, and I said I've done this. He goes, "Man, you've had an interesting life, haven't you?" I said, "I've had to do a lot of stuff." I said, "I really have been blessed to go be able to see all the things I've done."
Sure.
And you know, most of it was because I was teaching, you know, but I was in the area. So I may even drive an hour or two, just stay somewhere just to go see things, you know. and I took advantage of the opportunity. But I have one of my other good friends, Greg. He was talking about going to Alaska. He goes, "You ever been to Alaska?" I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Really? When'd you go there?" I said, "Oh, probably about 20 times." He goes, "Why'd you go to Alaska 20 times?" I said, "Well, I did a lot of work up there for the oil fields up there." I said, "Hell, I've been up on the slope there at Prudhoe Bay. I've been over the pass at Fairbanks. I said, I've been in a helicopter flying down the pipeline, stopping at the pump stations, seeing the caribou and everything running across the plains. As I've seen the wolves, I've seen the uh, uh, polar bears." I said, "I've done a lot there." And I told him, I said, "Yeah," I said, "it's pretty interesting." I said, "He woke me up one morning, like at 3 a.m, told me there was a truck waiting outside. I wanted to go out and see the Northern Lights. They took me over there. I got to see all that." And I said, "Hell, I went up there one time. I was in Valdez, and they took me fishing. I stayed 2 extra days. The next day we went skiing there in Valdez. I said, I've been to Juneau." He was like, "God dang, man." I was like, "Oh yeah." He goes, "Well, have you driven the I forget the what is the name at the road that goes up?" I said, "Oh yeah." I said, "That takes you over to Mount McKinley." He goes, "You driven that too?" I said, "Oh yeah." He goes, "I want to take a trip there and see all this." I said, "Well, I'm just gonna tell you, don't go during winter, boy, because it." I said, "Go. You want to do that during spring and summer." I said, it's freaking cold there, son. I said, "I've been there during spring, summer, and mainly winter." I said, "Boy," I said, I was telling him a story. I said, "The first time I went there," I said, "it was cold when I flew into Anchorage. I spent the night. Next day I got up, and they have their own plane that takes you over to Prudhoe Bay. And when we landed, I'm telling the truth, it was 68 below zero. And when I stepped off plane, it literally took my breath away. I I mean, I was like, I mean, it was unbelievable how cold. And then the building we were staying in, it was a comfy 65 degrees. Then guys were running around in t-shirts. I got a freaking turtleneck on with a shirt on top of it. I was freaking cold, but they were just like, and what was interesting is I was looking outside there one day at the door and you couldn't see nothing in front of you. I said, "Man, it's snowing like hell out there." He said, "Oh no, that ain't snowing." They said, "That's the wind blowing out there that's causing the whiteout." Blowing across there. It wasn't snowing from that, it was just the wind blowing. It was a whole different thing out there. But
Yeah, you'll get those ground blizzards. Like we've been out to like Wyoming, and Wyoming windsock is a chain tied to a pole, but it just blows. It blows 30 every day. I mean, it'll literally drive you crazy. Like I've been out there working like by the Wyoming border, right, Colorado, Wyoming, and
yeah,
it's just blowing, 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 blowing every day. I mean, you'll be sitting there coming from Colorado, no wind, nothing. You like cross over to Wyoming, wind. It's the weirdest thing. We had this whole this was a gas plant, and pretty good sized gas plant. It was probably, I would say, probably a good square mile, maybe 2 square miles, this gas plant, and they have tall walls on there. And so you think that those tall walls are like break that wind up. Doesn't. And then you'd be up on the tray and you're 2, 3 stories up on the tray working, wind. Non-stop wind, 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 just all the time, wind, wind, wind. And dude, it was crazy, man. Like the thing was, like, you get used to it because you just know, hey, when I go to work today, there's gonna be wind. And it like gets to the point where you're like, man, could I do something different where I don't have to deal with wind every day? You literally think to yourself, you're like, I think I'm done with wind. I think I don't like wind anymore, and that's the number one thing I didn't hate, or that was the number one thing I didn't like. But when you go look at it, like you were saying, like, oh man, cool, we got snow. No, it's just wind blowing the snow off the thing. You're like, oh, cool, snow finally. Not wind, still wind. You know. So
Yeah.
it was ridiculous. And like when we finally finished that project and we are done, I was kind of like, cool. Where am I going? And they're like, all right, you're going to this other place. And it was like the first thing I noticed was it was like, whoa, I'm working and there's no wind. You know, I was like, this is awesome. You know, I was like so happy because it was like, it gets in your mental psyche. We've actually had jobs where they were trade stacking really hard. And the only way we got through it was just all the trades got along. You know, I'd be like, hey, man, we got to work over there. Can we move you over here? And we're going to move over there. We're going to do this stuff over there. Then when we get done, we can move you back and everything. Oh, yeah, we're going on lunch anyway. You know what I mean? Like, that's cool. You know, and you just learn to get along with the different trades and everything. Then we do our thing and move them back. Then they come back from lunch like nothing even happened, you know? And then they're like, oh, hey, you know, appreciate you moving our stuff back, you know, right on. It's like, was any of the stuff over here in your way? No, you know, and everyone's just getting along, and it was really cool. But I didn't realize it till I left how much of a mental condition it caused you. You know, how much you like feel like claustrophobic, like you're just like boxed in, like you can't move, and you just like you can't stretch out, like you can't do anything, like you're just stuck in like one spot, you know, and it's like a small area. And you have to get what you need to get done in that area, and you can't leave until it's done. And it kind of gave me a little bit of a mental condition where I was like, hey, we need to take advantage of this space that we have and get it done. That way we don't have to come back to that space again, you know? And there's a lot of stuff with safety, like we talked about with electrical, live electrical, stuff like that. You know, like, hey, we have this shutdown. Let's go ahead and get as many things done during that shutdown as we can. That way we don't have to have multiple shutdowns. We don't have to have people trying to work on stuff energized. There's no reason for it. Just get it all done, one shutdown, and just and call it a day, you know? So it means a lot to do this podcast and try to kind of teach these young people a lot of these skills that me and you have learned through the years, that you don't need to have an energized circuit to troubleshoot. There's no reason. There is nothing that has to be energized for you to figure anything out. Never. Like, don't let anybody tell you have to have it energized to troubleshoot. If you know how to read your meter and you know electrical theory, you should be able to figure anything out just by reading your meter and having everything in a electrically safe work condition. 100%. So that's all I got, and I really hope everyone has a really safe week, and you know, work safe, and rest in peace anyone that has been killed by electricity. And I say we work as a group to stop that from happening in the future, and really promote electrical safety moving forward.
Amen, brother.
Yep. But I always say, as always, remember, make every day an easy day. And King James always says, what?
What? We'll see everybody next Thursday. Y'all have a good weekend. Peace.
All right.